Private markets are notoriously opaque. Unlike other financial institutions, private equity funds and hedge funds are exempt from requirements to maintain money laundering programs, anti-money laundering programs, verify the identities of their customers, and report suspicious transactions to the government, which I think is a huge oversight. But Secretary Rosenberg, Secretary Rosen, has Treasury observed individuals and companies with ties to the Chinese Communist Party investing in U.S.-managed hedge funds and private equity funds?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I'll be happy to begin. This is a concern for us. It's a national security concern when we're thinking about, if you will, vulnerabilities in our AML system that may result from inadequate regulatory treatment for certain areas. What you've just noted here with respect to regulatory treatment for areas of investment advisors, for example, private money, that's an area we've been looking at quite carefully. We've seen Russian oligarchs, unfortunately, exploiting this, as well as other fund managers launder millions of dollars through our system in this way. I'm also quite concerned about it when it comes to Chinese money moving into the United States, including that may influence our investment security that my colleague has responsibility for. We'd be very happy to work with you, appreciating the leadership of Congress on this issue, where I know that there's significant concern.
Secretary Rosen.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. From a CFIUS perspective, it's a critical issue and goes to sort of issues of ultimate beneficial ownership and participation in these funds. And one of the things that we are redoubling our efforts on is to look behind the investors, really digging in, not just looking at general partners, but who are the limited partners? What is the information about the limited partners? How much information do they get? And so when it comes to these kinds of investment funds, really doing the diligence to not just look at the deal structure, but who's behind it, and not being satisfied with just a shell company, understanding who is actually doing the investment.
But they have no legal obligation to tell you.
They can't get through CFIUS unless they don't tell us. And so, so while we don't have the regulatory framework that requires these specificities, if they want to get through the CFIUS review process, they're generally highly motivated to give us that information.
Let me put this in perspective. From 2021, 2021 and 22, over $2 trillion of Chinese investments were placed in private funds. That's a lot of money, and it's going to a lot of places. Secretary Rosenberg, are you aware of any investment in national defense companies, our major clients of the Department of Defense?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I would defer the specific answer to that to my colleagues from CFIUS, as well as, of course, the Department of Defense. But I would note from my perspective, thinking about the regulatory treatment broadly for investments, foreign and domestic, in this sector, or management of investment funds, that's an area of vulnerability for the United States where we must approach it from several different perspectives, not just the regulatory treatment, but of course also any national security implications resulting from foreign funds flowing in as well.
Well, I think there are profound national security implications. I do national security work on the Armed Services Committee. Let me ask you a question. In 2015, the Treasury proposed a rule to impose AML requirements on private equity funds and hedge funds. And I've called for the department to finalize the rule, including a letter I sent in March of 2022, more than a year ago. So why haven't you finalized this rule, since this poses I think, a potential and maybe actual serious threat to the national security of the United States?
Thank you, Senator. I want to agree with and affirm your national security concern that you've identified just now and in that letter to begin with. This is an area that I'm quite concerned about and that I have asked my team to look at broadly, gathering further up-to-date information, which we have done in the form of the money laundering threat assessment for the United States, and where we are seeking to direct resources now in order to find appropriate regulatory treatment at this time, bearing in mind that 2015, much has changed in this sector as well since that time.
Well, knowing where they're getting their money from, knowing where it's going, has a profound effect, given the $2 trillion in 3 years that's flowing in from China on our national security. I'm concerned from a national security standpoint. We're no old saying, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. In fact, both feet. Thank you.